Hey everyone, welcome to the YOUnify podcast. My name is Brandyn Keating. I'm your host for the podcast and the co-founder and CEO of YOUnify, which is a nonprofit organization helping you flourish and thrive. I am so excited today to have Cesar Cornier back in the studio with me. You may recall Cesar from an earlier episode where he was on with a couple of other guests. We're excited to have you here, Cesar, today, so we can do a little bit more of a deep dive with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Brandyn, for inviting me on, and to the YOUnify team for making this happen.
Absolutely. So as y'all may recall, if you saw the previous episode, Cesar is a man of many talents, a hip hop artist, a fashion designer, an activist. You've even been in a documentary film. But I wanted to start talking about hip hop because that seems like such a deep thread running through your life and what motivates you and what feeds your soul and what you're giving to the world. So what is your personal origin story with hip hop? How did you sort of start your hip hop journey, and what's made it such an important thing for you to have in your life and share with others?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Hip hop is an integral part of my life, and it definitely helped shape me be the person that I am today. So I fell in love with hip hop when I was about maybe 11 or 12 years old. My cousin at the time used to babysit me, and he was a rapper. So I would see him practice his lines while he was babysitting me. And to me, it kind of turned on something in my brain saying, like, he was someone that wasn't a celebrity or wasn't on the TV, but he was using those talents. And it was just something to me that I thought was extremely fun. I've always loved poetry. So my introduction, I would say, to lyricism was poems. I started writing poems maybe when I was 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So fast forward, as I said, seeing my cousin kind of pick up that mantle of hip hop and me seeing, okay, this is like what I was doing. It's poetry, but it's over a beat to me, which was fun. So kind of put those things together. And then I just, started writing lyrics. And then by age 12 or 13, I started producing my own instrumentals.
Wow.
Just loving music and being a music enthusiast. I wanted to be involved as much as I can. So that's why I was like, let me try to make these beats. Music is something that for me was like a safe space for me. It was therapeutic for me whenever I get to produce and write lyrics.
Yeah.
And moving forward, as I continued as a young adult and a teenager, with the things that I've experienced in my life in regards to social justice and liberation and community engagement, I've been able to fuse what I've learned with hip hop to community engagement and to involve and bring those things together.
Amazing. And so when you were that little guy, 8 or 9 years old, and then 11, writing the poetry, and then 11 years old, merging that into hip hop, you were growing up in Milwaukee, yeah?
Yeah, the south side of Milwaukee, which is predominantly a very like Latinx community. Traditionally is impoverished in the sense of resources and things of that nature. So to your point, I would write about the stuff that I saw, which was, my neighborhood, the different interactions that I've seen with, citizens and with police.
Yeah.
So I kind of was introduced, I guess you could say, to activism by just hip hop and writing my surroundings and my environment that I grew up in.
Yeah. And now I wonder, a lot of people, I think, could grow up in that environment or find hip hop, but maybe not put those pieces together, not put the activism and the art together. And so I'm curious about if there was a moment or a spark in you that really made you say, these things need to go together for me, and I can use hip hop to address social challenges and do good in the world.
Absolutely. For me, I think it was a combination of just my life experiences. Like as I take a step back and thinking about the community and the exposure that I've had to the neighborhood, that helps me like write about it. So I can just give a narrative to people that often aren't given an opportunity. So I wanted to let people know what goes on in my side of town.
Yeah.
And then to your point, as far as making that decision to make my music political or to be, social justice driven, I would say I've had some amazing mentors as far as artists that I look up to.
Oh, yeah.
I look up to hip hop originally was a foundation of community engagement and of activism, right? So
Yeah.
when we look at people like KRS-One, people like Immortal Technique, looking back at the greats before me and how they used their words, how they used their music to specifically talk about the community and Black and brown empowerment. And to
Yeah.
me, that's something that I just kind of always resonated with and wanted to do what I could in my community to let them know that, like, we're here and I care, you know?
Yeah, so you had some role models, and I think maybe you're probably a role model for lots of others now. I know that you had started actually a hip hop chess club in Milwaukee, which is a
Absolutely.
pretty unique thing. Could you share more about that and how that all got started?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was exactly in Milwaukee. Some peers of mine who are also musicians, hip hop artists. We came up with this idea to have a safe space called the Hip Hop Chess Club of Milwaukee, where we teach kids the fundamentals of hip hop and chess at the same time.
Amazing.
Which, yeah, a lot of people originally didn't know that there were so many things that kind of resonate with each other and the parallels with chess and hip hop, but there are definitely quite a few, such as like critical thinking and like just really being conscious of your next move, you know? So yeah, we created the safe space originally just to have a spot for kids,
Yeah.
you know, just to learn about hip hop, to play chess. And what we learned is people kept coming more and more every week, and they would tell us that they needed this space and how it became an opportunity for people to grow within the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because people lived in those neighborhoods and often don't even talk to their neighbors, right? So I think
Yeah.
creating spaces where people can meet each other more and have conversations on more of an intimate level, I think just help the community grow.
Yeah, and were there any specific maybe incidents that stuck out or sort of experiences of transformation that some of the young people might have experienced that you could share?
Oh, absolutely. It's been amazing to see. We had this one chess player. He was about 8 years old, never played chess until he got into our program. And by the time he left, he was beating everybody,
Wow.
including me. And we weren't going easy on him.
Yeah.
So to me, it's amazing to see like how quick these young kids can learn
Yeah.
new traits and new skills and how they can get inspired by it.
Yeah.
Another thing was, as I mentioned, we just did this as almost like an after school, just a program to see what'll work. And we've had kids come in and we often have food as well. So we'll
nice.
put in money and we'll get some pizzas. And I do remember one week I was talking to this kid and he told me, thank you so much for the food. That was his first meal of the day.
Yeah.
Mind you, it was 6 p.m.
Wow.
So to me, it kind of showed me that there is a greater purpose in this. And going back to mutual aid, like this was just me and a couple of my rapper friends that wanted to have a space in the south side of Milwaukee for kids so they're not out in the streets and being exposed to things in the streets. And from there, we saw the lack of resources and how we can kind of show up and provide some type of help for those people.
Yeah, the power of getting a couple of friends together and figuring out something that you want to bring into the world. It turns out, it's something that nearly any of us can do.
Absolutely.
Incredible. And also giving the young people that experience of learning something that's considered really complex and difficult and seeing how fast they can pick it up. I would imagine that would help them feel a sense of agency over other things in their lives.
Yes. And even some of the kids that were exposed to the production and the lyricism side of hip hop, they continued on and they wanted to learn more about music production and lyricism. So just as I mentioned earlier, seeing my cousin rehearse his lines kind of sparked that for me to want to get involved. We hope that we're able to create different spaces for people of that nature, that they can just see themselves get exposed to a different way of living and continue on that path.
Awesome. And you mentioned how drawn you were as a young child to words and to poetry and to lyrics. Is there a favorite lyric that you have by another artist? Or something that inspires you or inspired you when you were young?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say the lyrics of Tupac Shakur definitely inspired me because I saw him talk about a wide variety of different things in regards to lyricism. We talk about the street life. We talk about the things that he's seen, but he talked about hope. He talked about a different life and how we need to respect women, respect children. And those are things at a young age, me listening to and like soaking up is something that I carry with me in my music and how I, go as a person.
Yeah. And so we should mention to everybody so they can hear your music and get involved with your fashion line. Keeping It Mill is the name for both, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so what's the significance of that name?
Yeah, absolutely. So Keeping It Mill originally was keeping it in Milwaukee because like I said, born and raised in Milwaukee, when I would often leave and tell people, hey, I'm a rapper, people wouldn't even know that there was rappers in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I often hear, that 70s show, Fonzie, like that's what people think of when they think of Wisconsin. So with Keeping It Milwaukee, I wanted to also highlight the side of Milwaukee that people often don't see, which is the Black and brown creatives, which is the artists, which is everybody on the creative side doing different things. And then we also changed it to Keeping It a Million as a double entendre because, in the hip hop world, keep it a buck is keep it 100 means like keep it real. We're going to keep it mill. So it's basically just to prioritize and to highlight authenticity in all you do.
Incredible. And so how did you go from hip hop rap artist to then wanting to extend it to a fashion line?
Yeah, so we first tested off the fashion line just like most hip hop artists or merch, just with merch, right? So we threw the logo on a shirt, threw it on some beanies, and it was received really well. My supporters and community really appreciated it. And me living in Los Angeles, once again, being exposed to different opportunities, living next to the fashion district, I fell in love with fashion again,
Nice.
Started thinking about couture pieces and been invited to fashion shows, and it kind of once again was a light bulb in my head to where it's like I used music as a vessel for my activism and my social justice. And with fashion, it actually gave me another opportunity where I can be bold and use self-expression in that industry to come across what we need to do.
Yeah. And so how did you make that transition from Milwaukee to Los Angeles? Like what inspired you to leave your local community and come here to LA to continue to pursue your dreams?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've always loved LA. It's always been a special place, in my heart. But yeah, over a decade ago was when I first came, and I would come back and forth, and I would just always connect with just amazing creatives. And for me, it was refreshing to see where I'm from. There is no shortage of talent. There's artists, there are creatives, but as far as opportunities and resources, there's definitely a shortage of that. So being able to be here and I'm able to just move a lot more fluid in my creativity, as well as, connect with so many amazing like-minded individuals. And also, lastly to that, I will say I consider myself, like I said, an ambassador to Milwaukee. I'm in LA, but I carry Milwaukee in my heart everywhere I go. And I'm always eager to tell people about my experiences growing up in Milwaukee.
Yeah. As a transplant myself, I can relate to that very, very much. So what do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned so far, sort of transitioning from being a creative to really an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I think one thing that has really helped me moving forward, which is kind of similar to my creative side, is understanding the power of collaboration and partnerships. So like with myself as an artist, I love collaborating with different artists, different musicians. And then with my business, also, I try to think of what are like-minded artists, individuals, or entities that we can collaborate on to create something bigger. So with my clothing line, without just having clothes, we also like having events. So coming up with different spaces and ways to bring the community together, I think that visibility is authentic and it's the best. I can do ads and I can connect people online, and that's great. But having conversations with folks on a ground level and seeing where are some things that we can connect together, I think is great for my business.
Phenomenal. Well, of course, in YOUnify, we love that, as we are always thinking about how can we create whole greater than sum of the parts collaborations. And sort of reminds me, as you're talking about conversations, of I think the pathway through which we originally met, which was your involvement in the documentary film Divided We Fall.
Yes.
So could you share a little bit about what that film was attempting to do and how you got involved with it?
Absolutely. So yeah, Divided We Fall was a project that we did a couple years ago that was meant to basically bring 12 people, 6 from the left, quote unquote, and 6 from the right, different political sides, to have conversations and try to find common ground for a weekend. So we had an entire weekend. We were in a hotel together, stuck in these rooms, doing these prompts where we kind of, talk about what does America look like to us, or what does the ideal America feel like for us? So it was a great opportunity to have dialogue and to connect with people that we often wouldn't maybe necessarily talk to because they're on the other side politically or think a little bit different than I do. And to me, it was a groundbreaking experience because having conversations with people, one-to-one, heart-to-heart is a lot more effective than online arguing, or you don't really get to see what the person feels inside. So I think having conversations was extremely helpful, and it kind of reminded me that just because somebody might think differently politically than me does not mean that they're out to get me off of malicious intent or things of that nature. I think that people just have different beliefs, and it's important to understand where people are coming from. So that's one thing I learned too.
Yeah. Well, and in today's political climate, I feel like a lot of people would be scared to do something like that. I feel like a lot of folks are even, here we are. This will probably come out when it's after the holiday season, but here we're right in the middle of the holiday season. I think a lot of people are nervous about their family gatherings and people with different opinions. And I'm curious, what advice or what tips would you give people based on the experience that you had with Divided We Fall about coming together with somebody who has a really radically different opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. I think now in this year, it's been a couple years since Divided We Fall. I think things have been a little bit more escalated in regards to the political tension and the polarization that we see. I do think that the media and kind of what we're often fed contributes to that. So what I would say is, in regards to moving forward, is knowing that we're not in a time where everything is facts and everything is true. There's a lot of misinformation, a lot of polarization, and people are getting their information from different places. So I think it's good to know, once again, kind of going back to Divided We Fall, where some things may hurt and some things, in my opinion, may be just completely wrong. That person isn't doing that to harm me specifically. People are being honestly fed misinformation. And I think that is a big problem. But I think what counters that is what we're doing right now, Brandyn, and having conversations like person to person and asking somebody like, oh, you believe in this policy or you think this, why is that? And really trying to go a step further and like dig deeper into why people have the beliefs that they do. Because I personally believe that we have a lot more in common and our goals are often really the same. I just think because of the isolation and people kind of being in silos, we don't realize it.
Yeah, and so if we dig a little deeper, we can maybe find some shared values, that shared humanity that's hiding underneath.
Absolutely. I think everybody just wants to be safe, wants to be healthy, wants to make sure that their family is safe and healthy, that they have a roof over their head. I think that these are all like obvious things that the average person would want to have. And I think that if we have these conversations of how we can all achieve that together, that helps us move forward. Yeah,
absolutely. And so, you mentioned the sort of mis and disinformation, and I think sort of an adjacent thing that's happening in our culture right now is the proliferation of artificial intelligence, and particularly as relates to the creative world, where we now have to sort of question, did a human make this, or is this song by a robot? I was just invited to a conference where the entertainment for the evening is a band led by a robot.
Wow. That's wild.
I thought it was. And so I'm curious, from your vantage point as an artist, what do you think about this whole proliferation of AI and what it means for the future of hip hop and art more broadly?
Yeah, absolutely. I think AI is it's quite a complicated topic for me.
Yeah,
it's
not
kind
a simple
of
subject.
Yeah, it's kind of a love and hate relationship, and I'll quickly break it down why. I think that to your point in regards to misinformation and things of that nature, I think AI definitely presents a threat. I know people already where they'll show me videos of like an animal that doesn't exist, and I'm like, it's not true. And then, but what I will say is I think AI, kind of like the internet, is a technology that it's out and we're not going to put it back in.
Right.
I think that is something that is consistently just excelling and continuing to grow. AI is better than it was yesterday, right? It continues to advance. So with that being said, I think it's important to use it as a tool and to see how can we utilize it so we can, progress and also be intentional on the harm reduction and things that we can do. So I think AI, one of the biggest problems that I hear is the environmental damage that it causes,
Yeah,
right? So I think that's
absolutely.
something that immediately people need to work on, and that's the first thing, right? We need this world. So what
Yeah.
can we do for that? And also, as an artist, I do worry about intellectual property. Right, there are already cases where music is stolen, art is stolen, and as a creative, as an intellectual property person like that cares about creativity, I think
Yeah.
that that's unacceptable, and we need to find ways to protect our intellectual property, to protect what we have as far as creativity. But AI does present opportunities for growth and resources. Right now, there's a kid that wants to do a film that doesn't have $1 million or doesn't have a budget or camera equipment, but with a dream and with certain softwares, they can start creating something.
Yeah.
So I will say that there is some good in AI in the sense that it's giving people resources and opportunities to create, which they may have never had before.
Yeah.
I just think we should be conscious on how we're using this technology and to make sure that all people's intellectual property are protected moving forward.
Yeah, it sounds like a really tricky balance between the sort of positive opportunity of democratizing access to creating maybe in more sophisticated ways, making that more affordable for people, while at the same time as dealing with the challenge of not being able to know what's real and making sure that artists are properly recognized and compensated for their contributions. Whew,
Yeah.
tricky.
And with regulations, because this is still new, right? Like this is just originated and it's still in the genesis period,
Yeah.
I'd say, of AI. But I think moving forward, we are going to have regulations, and such as artists like myself are going to speak up and say, hey, we're
Yeah.
not totally, we're not going to banish this technology. We're aware that it's here and it's going to be utilized, but let's protect our community and all those involved.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I know for myself personally, and I think a lot of others would like to know what are those avenues for advocating that we have some guardrails. So I hope you'll keep us posted on that as it evolves.
Absolutely. Actually, the Recording Academy has
Yeah.
actually been doing what they can in regards to combating AI. And there is a country, it's either Greenland or Norway, that as soon as you're born, all of your intellectual property is owned by you. So
Oh,
everything that you
interesting.
say and all of
Yeah.
your images is automatically owned by you. And that was the first time that they did that. And that's because, once again, thinking about AI and how we can, readjust and navigate through these new technological times.
Yeah, absolutely. So thinking about all you're balancing your hip hop career, your fashion design business, your activism, and I feel like every time we talk, you've always got some new exciting thing going on. How do you help yourself flourish and thrive? Like, how do you keep Cesar balanced and creating and having the sort of brain space and vibrancy to keep bringing all that you're bringing into the world?
Yeah, sometimes it's easier said than done, right?
Fair
To
game.
keep that balance. But I
Yeah.
will say, really, I lean on community. Like I lean on my peers in my community. When I do feel burnt out, I have people to talk to. And then also seeing the amazing work, that my peers are doing, such as yourself, Brandyn. I'm putting in the work that inspires me to just continue and doing whatever I can do, And even though there's a lot of work, when we're talking about justice, when we're talking about fighting the injustices and the inequality, what's going on right now. But I find faith in seeing, I see the progress,
Yeah.
step by step. I see people organize. I see people get activated. I see people find their purpose and move forward to try to bring that type of love and peace that we need in this world. And to me, like, I'm all about connecting. So the more I connect with people, the more of like a lifeline and the more energy that gives me to be the best that I can for my community.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's such a challenge for folks. We had, the Surgeon General's report a couple years ago that identified loneliness as an epidemic in the US. And I think people really struggle with isolation. So I'm curious, coming to a big, like really big, sprawling giant city, like LA, recently, how did you build community here? And what advice would you give to other people if they're like, yeah, community sounds great, but like, where do I start?
Yeah, absolutely. one thing about LA that is so awesome about being a sprawling cities, there's a lot to do, and there's a lot of different affinity spaces and like groups, affinity groups that people can find themselves in. So for me, I'm really big, as I mentioned, on social justice and things of that nature. So I first utilize technology, right? So everybody has, whether Instagram, Facebook, like find different groups that
devices.
There, exactly.
We've all got it.
Find your group or groups of people doing something that resonates with you, right? So like me being Latino, I'm very big on trying to support the immigrant community any way I can, right? Nice. So like being in Instagram, finding there's so many different coalitions, nonprofits, organizations that help serve, these different populations, these different groups. So I just, I show up, right? Like I see what they're doing on Facebook. If there's a demonstration or a meeting, I go introduce myself, and you will learn from there. You'll meet how many more people, like you go to one meeting and you'll meet a handful of people that will get you to other organizations and other correlations. So I think as long as if you want to and you're intentional, I can say that. And I would say for people that aren't in a place like LA where there is kind of a lot to do, there's always a space. So I say check online. You'll find, even if it's a handful of people that think like you, even if there's not a group already, then start it. Like if you feel an inclination, if it's politically driven or you want to create a space of inclusion for somebody, find those people and make it happen.
Awesome. Yeah. I love the idea of using our devices and the internet to get away from our devices and into spaces with people. I feel like it's easy to get caught up with the doom scroll. And it's a great reminder that we can also use our little handheld computers and our actual ones to find other like-minded people and get into community. And on that note, I do want to invite everybody who's watching to like and subscribe to, if you're getting something out of this podcast, to click that like button and also to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us get tips and tricks for flourishing and thriving out to more people and helps us build community that we think can have a real positive ripple effect on the world. So we're really grateful if you can take a moment to hit those like and subscribe buttons. And we also want to invite you to join our Write the Future campaign, which is focused on coming together with other folks in your community and envisioning what is that hopeful future, as well as planning action steps to move forward with it. So you can learn more about that by going to our website, which is YOUnify.org, YOUnify.org, or by emailing writethefuture@younify.org. And we'll put those links below in the description so you can click them and get involved. And just like Cesar said, if you don't see a Write the Future event in your community, we can support you in starting one. So we invite everybody to get involved. And Cesar, how can people find you and your music? What's the latest thing that they should look for, or something new coming out? What do you want to make sure everybody knows about?
Yeah, absolutely. Super excited about some new music that I got on the way. So awesome. I'm on all platforms. Artist name is The Crown, which is going to be THACROWN. That's on awesome. All platforms. And I got some exciting new fashion on the way, and just a lot of community building, definitely.
Amazing. So we'll put those links below as well so that you can hear Cesar's awesome music and check out the fashion, The Crown.
Yes.
Awesome. And do you have any live performances coming up?
Yeah, actually, I'll be performing, I believe in 2 weeks. We're going to be in Canoga Park. So yeah, if anybody in the LA area, awesome. Definitely stop by.
All right. So local LA people, you can check out Cesar and build community all at once. And Cesar, one of the things that we try to do in YOUnify is just help with, everybody's nervous system, I feel like, is just so overwhelmed these days. We got so much negativity coming at us. A lot of times our schedules are really overwhelming. And so we've started this series called Just One Thing that's about, just one thing that we can do to make the world better around us or to help ourselves. And I'm wondering if you were to give folks a tip of something they could do right after this podcast to help themselves or help others or help their community, is there one simple thing that comes to mind that you would advise folks?
Yeah, I want y'all to go to somebody and tell them you love them. Someone who you think needs it. because I think that we really do need more love in this world. And just a sentiment by telling somebody like you love them and you care for them in a day that they might be going through it, or they're not expecting that love, can do wonders. So, just love on your people a little extra hard today.
On that note, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Again, please hit that like and subscribe. Check out the links below. Find somebody to give that I love you and that hug to, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Cesar.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you too. Can I give you a hug?